If you are near the Guadalupe River in Kerr County, Texas, you need to get out.
Good evening. They say they were told to target people of color while on the job.
We took no action on any of the items discussed.
There was only one family that was out. Nobody else answered.
Are they going to get out?
They said they would.
Okay, this water's going to keep going up.
Holloway was arrested last week, fired from his job, and charged with 2 third-degree felonies and 1 Class A misdemeanor.
This is probably the worst weather event that I've ever covered here. And I have one person.
Doesn't just go between musicians. We are connected to the radio stations, the DJs.
She posted that was kind of near Junction, and she posted that around 4 or 5 in the morning.
Not the venue. I'm going to ask you to leave. I'm going to ask you to leave.
Okay.
Stop watching this video, call them right now and tell them to get out, because this is looking worse than...
Let us pray. Our Father and our God, to whom all hearts are open and all thoughts are known, we're thankful for our mayor, our city council, and our city manager. Thankful for their labor and effort to seek out a man with the background, training, experience, and character of Chief McCall. In this time when the images of George Foreman and Breonna Taylor are still fresh in our minds, when the conduct of some police officers have tarnished the reputation of all police officers, we pray for your divine guidance for Chief McCall and for those who will serve under his leadership. We ask that you crown his head with wisdom, that he will lead others with the dignity and respect that boosts morale and inspires confidence.
December 8th, 2020. Reverend Alan Noah, pastor of Barnett Chapel United Methodist Church, rose to deliver the invocation. A black pastor offering a blessing for the new chief of police. What Reverend Noah didn't know, what no one in that theater knew, was that the man he was blessing was, at that very moment, a defendant in an active federal civil rights lawsuit.
Officers were told that they had to make a certain number of arrests a month and that they should go to the East Side to do so. And the East Side community in Hobbs is a predominantly African American community and people of color.
We ask, Holy Spirit, that you will overshadow him with your presence, that he will see all the people whom he has taken the oath to protect and serve. We pray for his family, that they would find a welcoming presence in our community. May he be inspired with courage, wisdom, and compassion to stand in solidarity with all the people.
There was a time Ellis was written up because his pocket recorder was not recording at a use of force call, though the officer with him, who is not African American, was not written up for not recording the incident.
To unify our community. Now, Lord, may our intentions be sincere, our labor selfless. May all of us live a purpose bigger than ourselves, understanding that when we do, we will begin to transcend our limitations and discover that we can accomplish more together than we can apart. In your name we pray. And all the people said, amen.
A lawsuit alleging that his department had systematically targeted black communities, that officers were ordered to meet racial quotas, that whistleblowers who reported discrimination were destroyed. A lawsuit that would settle 7 months later for $1.4 million. But on this December evening, the community only knew what they had been told. Chris McCall, standing 6'7", the sole finalist, and on paper, his credentials were impeccable.
He began his career as a patrol officer in 1999. He served as deputy chief of police from 2010 to 2012, and interim police chief before his promotion to chief of police in 2013. During his tenure as chief in Hobbs, New Mexico, McCall provided strategic leadership and direction to 150 Hobbs Police Department staff members. He oversaw operations of 75-bed detention facility, so equivalent to like our county jail, managed media relations and social media engagement, devised crime and traffic enforcement strategies, drove community engagement efforts aligned with policing in the 21st century. This was a big thing for us in our recruitment, and he has a lot of experience in that area. I'm excited about what he's going to bring. He served on various state level boards, so he provides leadership not just to his community, but also to the association in the entire state of New Mexico. And then he also holds a bachelor's degree in public administration from Upper Iowa University, an associate's degree in mid-management from Eastern New Mexico University. He's a graduate of the FBI Academy 241st session, the Harvard Kennedy School of Government, State and Local Government, which we've talked about. We both have been through that program. The lead Weldon Cooper Center for Public Service, University of Virginia, the West Point Leadership Program. He's also served as president, as I mentioned earlier, of New Mexico Association of Chief of Police and the New Mexico Law Enforcement Professional Standards Council, and has been a board member of the New Mexico Law Enforcement Academy Board, the New Mexico Municipal League, the Lee County Communication Authority, Crime Stoppers, the Hobbs and Rotary Club, and the Lee County Drug Task Force Board. McCall has a proven background in practical application of law enforcement processes and procedures, problem resolution, data analysis, and the training and development of personnel. He's a cop's cop.
But there was something curious about how Chris McCall was introduced at his New Mexico Senate confirmation hearing just 3 years earlier.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee, and it's my honor and pleasure to be here with good friend Chris McCall. Chris has been with the Hobbs City Police since 2010.
The man introducing him told the Senate that McCall had been with the Hobbs Police Department since 2010. But according to his own retirement announcement, every news report, and his official biography, McCall joined Hobbs PD in February 1999, not 2010.
Chief Chris McCall brings with him more than 20 years of law enforcement experience in Hobbs, New Mexico, where he began his career as a patrol officer in 1999.
2010.
In 1999.
1999. McCall didn't correct him. Why would someone erase 11 years from a police chief's career? To understand what happened in those missing years, we have to go back to the beginning.
To remember where I started.
Hobbs, New Mexico, a small city in Lea County near the Texas border. In 1997, the United States Department of Justice opened an investigation into the Hobbs Police Department. The allegations were serious: civil rights violations, excessive force, a pattern of targeting minority communities. In 1999, the American Civil Liberties Union filed a class action lawsuit, Johnson versus City of Hobbs. The lawsuit documented more than 20 alleged civil rights violations, 60 citizen complaints. The city settled. They agreed to federal oversight. They promised reform. And in February 1999, while the DOJ investigation was still active, while the ACLU lawsuit was being litigated, a young officer named Chris McCall joined the Hobbs Police Department. 2003. Miro versus City of Hobbs. 4 years into his career, Chris McCall appeared in his first federal civil rights lawsuit, Miro versus City of Hobbs, filed April 24, 2003. The plaintiffs were Hispanic families. The allegation: officers drew weapons on them during a routine encounter. One of the family members was a 2-year-old child. Chris McCall was a named defendant. The case settled on October 25, 2004. The terms were confidential. During this lawsuit, McCall was named Officer of the Year. In 2005, federal judge Martha Vasquez issued a ruling on the ACLU settlement compliance. Her finding? Substantial non-compliance. The department had agreed to reforms. The department had not implemented them. And Chris McCall continued to rise. Patrolman, field training officer, sergeant, lieutenant, and in 2010, deputy chief.
Less than 2 weeks after being placed on administrative leave, Hobbs police chief is back on the job. J.D. Sanders returned to work on Monday. He was placed on leave following an incident with a police officer at a public event. The Hobbs city manager says the investigation is complete and no one will be disciplined. Sanders has been chief for 4 years. In 2012, police chief J.D. Sanders left the department under a cloud. The circumstances were described in news reports as an incident with a police officer at a public event. The details were never fully disclosed. Chris McCall stepped in as interim chief. In February 2013, the interim title was removed. Chris McCall became the 24th chief of police in Hobbs history.
Rules of engagement of SWAT are simple. Defeat the enemy any way you can.
Under Chief McCall, the Hobbs Police Department produced recruitment videos that would make national news. The Washington Post asked, what sort of person would be attracted to a career in law enforcement based on the images and activities depicted in that video? And is that the sort of person you'd want wearing a badge and carrying a gun in your neighborhood? When McCall appeared before the New Mexico Senate for his reappointment to the Law Enforcement Academy Board, Democratic senators grilled him.
All of the images in the commercial from Hobbs were very much images of us, them, very much images of separation from the community. And and I know that your response was, well, I think the production company focused on that, but ultimately you had to sign off on that commercial.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's absolutely my responsibility. And as I looked at that, my thought was we're looking to grab attention of people. It wasn't necessarily the message that we're sending behind that. I was a fairly new chief at the time, and I think over the years, I've been able to gather a little knowledge and different perspective on approach, and I think a lot of the things that you see in that article have changed. You don't see those things on our website. You haven't seen that commercial since those things were pointed out. But we really took a look at what type of image we were projecting, if that really was the image that we wanted for the Hobbs Police Department, and we've worked to change that.
The first video you watched was the Hobbs SWAT recruitment video. This next video is a 30-second commercial with SWAT going into houses with guns.
Hobbs Police Department is hiring, starting at $22.28 per hour and a 5-year incentive of $15,000. Pay for certified officers is $22.28 to $25.62 per hour, with a $25,000 housing incentive for 5 years and $50,000 for 10. This is an opportunity to be a member of the 20-year at 70% retirement plan.
I'm Chief Chris McCall. Have you got what it takes to be one of us? If so, call us at 575-393-COPS.
Because frankly, you've got a lot of elements coming in. You don't know who they are, and they don't know who the community is, and they can either feel like they can have a relationship with law enforcement, or that they very much don't have a relationship.
Absolutely. We're working right now. We just received a COPS grant to put out a community relations team. We're really looking for ways that we can engage different segments of our community that we've missed in the past, and actually dedicating personnel police officers, experienced police officers, to partner with those organizations, or look for ways for us to make those connections that we've missed in the past.
Okay. Madam Chair, I didn't see Lanny Maddox's name, Dr. Maddox, on the list of the current people at the LEA. Was he on the LEA board, or was it a different board that Chief Maddox was appointed to? Can I ask the chief, please, real quick?
Yes.
Chief of the
Chair, Senator, he's on a different board. Okay. Staff board of the Public Safety Advisory Council.
There you go. Okay, very good. No, because we've had some fantastic conversations with Chief Maddox, Dr. Maddox, PhD in police science, about the relationship between about how police approach the communities that they are in. And in this committee, we've had those conversations, and frankly about the federal program to send really cool toys to local police departments and what that does. And it's and it is a matter of some significant concern, because while those toys have their appropriate usefulness, they can also be used at times when they're not necessary. And so it's particularly given that the Law Enforcement Academy Board, in addition to overseeing the academy, also oversees complaints against law enforcement and law enforcement certification. And so it's important for this committee that we know that the people looking at particularly at disciplinary matters against members of law enforcement are able to do so in an objective way, and are able to do so in a manner that that appreciates the relationship that law enforcement should have as members of the community, and not set apart from that community.
We agree.
So, and I have to say that your answers, in terms of what you've learned from putting out from the ad and the imagery and whatnot, I appreciate very much the responses that you give on that. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Senator Steinborn.
Thank you. Senator, good morning, and sir, good morning. So I want to ask you about several issues that have kind of come to my attention regarding the transparency of the board and some recent steps that the board has taken. that I'm disappointed in, and I mean, I'd love to hear your response to it. And transparency is a huge issue in a public body, and accepting public input's a huge issue. It's a backbone, I believe, of democratic operating system that the public can weigh in. We now start webcasting all of our meetings. They're archived. Any member of the public can come and give comment, and that's so crucial. And so I'm curious, I understand that in September, the board approved a rule change to limit public comments at your meetings. Maybe two different things, public comments, and then also not allowing, you struck language that allowed rules to be uploaded on police training plans to the Academy website. Would you address those two things?
To my knowledge, the public comment is to funnel those. Are you speaking of putting things on an agenda?
Well, that's the third thing. Yeah, there's a apparently. Let's see here. Another action that you took allowed the board chairman to deny a request from the public to place a topic for discussion on a board meeting agenda. So I assume, I don't know if that's something that you had was that something you had previously allowed?
Yes, previous citizens could place things on the agenda. What we decided to do as a board was have them use their citizen representatives to vet, maybe be able to answer some of those questions that come up prior to a meeting, rather than clogging a meeting with information that could be, or issues that could be resolved in advance.
So, Madam Chair, so would the citizens representative, as you called it, is there a representative for the public that has the opportunity to place things on the agenda?
Yes.
Okay. And can any member of the public go to that person, and is that person then obligated to put something on the agenda if they're requested to do so?
I don't know about obligated, but they certainly can put.
Okay. Well, I hear you. It seems like that may not be the case, so a little concerned by that. But talk to me about the other things, about public comment and how that got restricted exactly.
I think that's for the efficiency of the meeting and how the meeting runs.
Could you tell me that? Well, could you tell me though about the policy of the way it used to be and the way it now is, and the change that was made?
From my perspective, it used to be you could stand up at the podium and create an agenda and run that agenda for as long as you saw fit, until the chair decided to stop that line and try to move on to something else. We were getting to a point where we were unable to do board business due to the lengths of some of the presentations that were being presented, and they were really running in circles, the same information over and over and over.
So, Madam Chair, here and in public bodies I'm used to, allowing public comment doesn't mean you got to allow someone to talk all night and filibuster. I mean, you can set a time limit. You can say, wouldn't that be, is there anything in your rules that would prohibit you setting a time limit on public comment, individual comments?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. And so, Madam Chair, sir, did you eliminate the ability to speak at all for the public at your meetings?
No. I believe there's still opportunity for public comment.
So when we say limited comments, I guess what I'm trying to get to is how did we limit it? What did we limit it to?
I believe we limited the time allotment for a person to come up and make their presentation in order to make the meetings efficiently run.
Yeah. I'm just trying to, does anyone here have any more information on what exactly was the nature of that limiting?
Madam Chair, members of the committee, also the director of Law Enforcement Academy boards here, but I'm very familiar with these changes. Yes, the agenda items were limited because anybody in the public could just put an item on the agenda and it would lengthen it. So we moved past that to public comment. That is part of the meeting. Usually the chair may set a 5-minute limit, 2-minute limit. I believe it could be arbitrary. It just depends on the chair, which is Henry Valdez, the Attorney General. he's pretty liberal with that, so I haven't seen it limited only to one time, I think. But the public does have the ability to sign in at the beginning of the meeting, sir, and then make comments. Does that help answer your question?
Not really. It does a little. I'm still trying to get specifics of how we limited it.
When the rule changed, the previous rule didn't say anything about public comment. So they added the public comment section to the rule. The agenda item was what was changed because we were having people that were putting things on an agenda that should have been a public comment. It should only be an agenda item to determine if there was going to be a vote on it. If it was simply something they wanted to bring to the attention of the board, then that's the public comment. I believe the limit under the rules is 5 minutes. With the course of chair, it's the opportunity to extend that if necessary.
So, Madam Chair, so is that 5 minutes for everybody, for the public?
No, sir, I'm sorry. 5 minutes for each speaker.
5 minutes for each speaker. So the current rule allows anybody that wants to speak 5 minutes.
Yes, sir.
They can show up at a meeting and speak for 5 minutes. All right.
On any topic?
What's that?
On any topic?
Issue that needs to be voted on, then it can be put on the agenda.
Yeah, is that on any topic?
There's not a limitation, no, sir. It's the chair, the director, or any member of the board can put an item on.
Right. That's not what I'm asking. I'm asking about a member of the public, like an opportunity for a member of the public to show up and speak to anything.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, yes, they can speak to anything.
What's that?
Yes, they can speak to anything that's signed up for the public comment.
Okay. And they have 5 minutes per person? Is that what you're saying? Okay. Talk to me a little bit, if you don't. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, you bet.
Sure.
I just want to make sure, I just think I heard the chief said the chair, I keep hearing the chair is the Attorney General?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so I assume then the Attorney General has vetted this to make sure it is open, meets open records laws.
Yes, very much so, sir.
I wanted to make sure I heard you correctly. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mike.
And thank you, Madam Chair. And then this provision about the board striking language from the rules saying the director must upload police training lesson plans to the Academy website. Would you speak to that?
I don't know that I can speak to that in depth. I know there were some issues with some of the topics at one time being uploaded.
Only one person has not been confirmed in New Mexico history. It was not Chris McCall. The committee voted unanimously to confirm him. 1 month later, the first whistleblower lawsuit would be filed. 2015, Lopez versus Lee County. Flora Lopez alleged officers conducted warrantless searches of her home. The court found the pattern had continued for, quote, many years. The case settled in 2017. Kraft versus City of Hobbs, 2017. Al-Rashad Kraft was a black man and Department of Energy employee. He was preaching the gospel at Ship Street Plaza, a designated public forum in downtown Hobbs. He had been doing this for 6 months, recording himself for YouTube. A white woman approached him, and according to the lawsuit, physically assaulted him. Kraft was the victim, but Kraft was also the one arrested. He spent 17 days in jail. He lost his federal job. The charges, they didn't stick. They were eventually dismissed. The lawsuit named Chief McCall as a defendant, alleging that he was aware that Defendant Wright and other Hobbs government officials wanted the plaintiff off the city streets, either because he was African American or because they mistook him for being Muslim. Verrett versus City of Hobbs, 2017. After an officer-involved shooting, a family, including a 1-year-old baby, was detained for 4.5 hours. They weren't told that their family member had been killed. The baby was left without proper care. The case settled in December 2018. Morales versus City of Hobbs.
Welcome back. It's a mix-up no one would ever want to be caught up in. Earlier this year, we told you on Special Assignment how police arrested and locked up a New Mexico woman for a crime she did not commit. News 13's Gabrielle Burkhart tells us what happened with her case.
I just kept saying, that's not me. That's not me.
It's a phrase officers have likely heard before, but as News 13 reported on Special Assignment earlier this year, in Joy Morales' case, she was telling the truth.
I couldn't believe it was happening.
She served 49 days in jail, locked up in 2 different states. She missed Christmas with her young son, and it was all a mistake.
And the reason why I stopped you is you didn't stop at that stop sign. You didn't make a complete stop, okay?
Morales was pulled over in 2015 by police in Hobbs, New Mexico for rolling through a stop sign. When the officer ran her license, he found an active warrant out of Arizona for failing to appear on a DUI.
I haven't even been there. I shouldn't have a warrant out of anywhere.
It was actually a former high school classmate, a woman named Devon Archibek, who was picked up for DUI in Arizona. But according to court records, Archibek, who had no ID on her at the time, gave officers Joy Morales' name and birth date instead. This mix-up would cost Morales a lot of grief.
I lost 3 months of my life.
A warden in Arizona eventually approached her with Archibek's original booking photo in hand and finally let Morales go. Charges against her were dismissed, but who's held accountable for a mistake like that?
You know, you can easily find yourself in this sort of nightmare situation where nobody's listening to you when you tell them it's not you.
Morales filed a civil rights lawsuit against the City of Hobbs, Lee County Board of Commissioners, Hobbs Police, and the officer who arrested Morales. Arizona defendants were sued and settled out of court. Lee County defendants also settled for an undisclosed amount. And after a lengthy wait yet again, the City of Hobbs won a motion to dismiss the lawsuit, arguing the Arizona warrant on its face appeared valid. Morales' attorney, Cammie Nichols, told us back in April,
the law is difficult in that area, but in this case, you know, she had so much evidence that it wasn't her.
More than 2 years after the original traffic stop in Arizona, court records show Archibek was finally charged. She pled guilty to aggravated DUI and criminal impersonation and was sentenced to a year. Morales says she did what she could to prove her case and make sure this doesn't happen again.
You're in the hopes that somebody's going to listen.
On Special Assignment, Gabrielle Burkhart, KRQE News 13.
None of the defendants who settled their portion of the lawsuit admitted any fault.
2017. Brandon Ellis, Jeremy Ortiz, Vashawn Robinson versus Hobbs Police Department. 1 month after McCall's Senate confirmation, 3 Hobbs police officers filed a federal lawsuit against their own department. Brandon Ellis, Jeremy Ortiz, Vashawn Robinson. Their allegations were explosive.
I spoke with the attorney representing the officers. She says her clients had to leave the Hobbs Police Department because of the hostility against them and African Americans in the city they want to protect.
Even though we were driven out of the Hobbs Police Department, we're not going to let this stand.
3 former Hobbs police officers are taking their racial discrimination case to federal court. According to the lawsuit filed last week, 2 African American officers, Brandon Ellis and Vashawn Robinson, and a Caucasian officer, Jeremy Artis, are expressing concerns for their safety and constitutional rights of people of color living in Hobbs.
These officers were told that they had to make a certain number of arrests a month and that they should go to the east side to do so. And the east side community in Hobbs is a predominantly African American community and people of color.
And another incident when Ellis reported a sergeant failing to stop an officer from frequently using the N-word. Then there was a time Ellis was written up because his pocket recorder was not recording at a use of force call. Though the officer with him, who is not African American, was not written up for not recording the incident. The alleged discrimination didn't end when they left HPD.
They also have been blackballed within the law enforcement community.
They did find jobs within the Lee County Sheriff's Department, making $6 an hour less. In addition to damages, they're wanting to send a message.
To represent voices, to make change in places like Hobbs.
The Hobbs Police Department has not been served the lawsuit, so they did not offer a statement today. Dean, back to you.
All right, Jackie, thank you. Two of the officers reached out to the Hobbs chapter of the NAACP for help while working for the department. Kennedy says the NAACP contacted Hobbs Police and former city manager J.J. Murphy, but says nothing changed.
The plaintiffs retained an expert witness, Robert Stewart, a former law enforcement professional. His findings supported the officers' claims of a hostile work environment and discriminatory practices. In January 2021, the defendants, including Chief McCall, tried to get the case dismissed. The federal court denied the motion. The court found the officers had, quote, created a genuine dispute of material fact, unquote, about their claims. 6 months later, in July 2021, the city of Hobbs settled. The amount? $1.4 million. By then, Chris McCall had been chief of the Kerrville Police Department for 7 months. A heartbroken mother, on behalf of her minor child, versus Hobbs Municipal School District, 2018.
Good afternoon. It didn't just happen once, according to athletes. It's been happening for years. We've learned of ongoing hazing allegations involving the Hobbs High School soccer team. News 13's Rebecca Atkins is live in the Newsplex with the new developments.
Okay, we told you last week about an investigation into an alleged hazing incident involving the Hobbs High School soccer team last month. Now a 20-page lawsuit has been filed claiming the coaches, principal, and even the superintendent were aware of what was going on since 2015, but continued to sweep it under the rug.
I think the district was remiss and completely failed these kids.
This lawsuit claims hazing is nothing new to the Hobbs High School soccer team.
We know that the school was aware that the boys were inappropriately touching each other. In 2015,
it was filed by the mother of a former player who claims her son was not only hazed but sexually assaulted.
Certain boys being held down and inappropriately touched by other team members that are older.
Joseph Zebas is the attorney representing the boy and his mother. He refers to many of the incidents as teabagging or a dog pile. He also says there was outright rape. Zebas says in 2017, coaches and school administrators were made aware of a hazing video. He says he has proof coaching staff ordered the video be deleted, saying it would put the program in jeopardy.
No disciplinary action was taken whatsoever.
He says he'd been gathering evidence for his lawsuit when the newest allegations came out.
On the heels of getting ready to file, it just so happens that new allegations surface that take place that are very similar to the allegations involving our client.
School officials haven't said much about the newest allegations, only that there is an investigation. News 13 has learned that the alleged hazing happened on a bus during an away game in Santa Teresa last month. To this point, no charges have been filed, and according to Zebas, the coaches are still on the job. He says it shouldn't have gotten to this point.
Our position is, had the school done their job in 2015, in the 2015 soccer season, more likely than not, the incidents that are happening now or recently wouldn't have happened.
But one game after the most recent incident was reported, we did reach out to the superintendent, who is listed on the lawsuit, for comment. We have yet to hear back. Kim, back to you.
Okay, thanks, Rebecca. Now, there have been similar allegations involving other high school teams in New Mexico in the past, including the Raton basketball team and the Robertson and Valencia high football teams. In some of those cases, criminal charges were filed, there were convictions, and students were kicked out of school. Now, the latest incident involving Hobbs is being investigated by El Paso police.
The federal lawsuit settled on August 30, 2019. The terms were confidential. 5 months earlier, Chris McCall had announced his retirement. The soccer scandal wasn't the only sexual assault case that collapsed under Chris McCall's watch.
On June 11, 2005, Father Ricardo Bauza officially became a priest. His first assignment was in Las Cruces, where he played an instrumental part in restoring the St. Genevieve's high altar. 9 years later, he became the priest of St. Helena's Catholic Church in Hobbs, New Mexico. So what would take place inside these four walls over a 3-year span is something no one saw coming. Criminal sexual contact, that's the charge that Bauza's facing today. Back in April of last year, he agreed to allow a male church member to use his shower, which by the way is located inside the church. While the 24-year-old man was inside the shower, the report says Bauza opened the door to join him. According to police statements, the priest began washing the man's body with a loofah and ended up touching his genitals with both the loofah and his hand. When the man asked Bauza what he was doing, the priest said, "It is okay, we are just men." As Bauza continued washing the victim's body, the victim said the priest appeared excited and was smiling. The victim admitted he felt uncomfortable with this, but was confused because he wasn't sure if helping another man bathe was part of Bauza's culture. A week later, the victim asked if he could use the priest's shower again, but this time when he saw Bauza undressing, the man left without showering. The victim kept the secret until this past August, when 2 church employees opened up to him about their concerns with Father Bauza. Bauza had showed both men pictures of his genitals and admitted he was bisexual. The priest even went as far as to say he paid different men to perform sexual acts on him in his living quarters at the church. All 3 members ended up telling Bishop Oscar Cantu about Bauza's inappropriate acts, hoping something would be done. According to the men, Bauza was merely spoken to and was allowed to remain as the church's priest. It was then that the men filed a police report. After word got out of Bauza's allegations, Bishop Cantu released the following statement. Wanting to respect the privacy of the accusers as well as the accused, I did not want to make this matter public. I did assure the victims, however, that they are always free to file a police report. I find it necessary to comment now that the matter has been reported to the media.
Why are you terrified?
As for Father Bauza's whereabouts, police say they have a good idea of where he may be and are in the process of locating him.
On February 12, 2018, Bauza finally surrendered, voluntarily. He was released on his own recognizance, no bail. July 2018, days before trial, the criminal charge against Father Ricardo Bauza was dismissed. 5th Judicial District Attorney Diana Luce declined to comment. The same pattern over and over again. On January 21st, 2019, Chris McCall announced his retirement. His last day was February 28, 2019. At the time of his departure, the Ellis whistleblower lawsuit was still active. The Kraft lawsuit was still active. The soccer scandal was still making headlines. Less than a year later, McCall emerged as a finalist for police chief in Oro Valley, Arizona. A local watchdog group called Oro Valley Thrives did what Kerrville would not do. They researched the candidate. 7 months later, Kerrville, Texas, named Chris McCall as their sole finalist for police chief. There was no mention of the Ellis lawsuit, no mention of the ACLU investigation, no mention of Miro or Kraft or Verrett or Morales, no mention of the soccer scandal, no mention of the priest who fled the state, no mention of why Oro Valley had passed. Oro Valley did their research. Kerrville did not. And so, on December 8, 2020,
that you will overshadow him with your presence, that he will see all the people whom he has taken the oath to protect and serve.
A black pastor invoked the names of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and blessed a man who was, at that very moment, a defendant in a federal civil rights lawsuit alleging the systematic targeting of black communities, who was named defendant in multiple federal civil rights lawsuits, under whose watch children were sexually assaulted for years, while shoddy police work got their charges dismissed. A man who retired at 47, who was rejected by Oro Valley after they researched him, who was welcomed by Kerrville after they did not. A man who stood in the Kahlo Theater and took an oath to protect and serve the people of Kerrville, Texas. The decorated chief, the FBI Academy graduate, the sole finalist. And on July 4, 2025, when the Guadalupe River rose 30 feet in 90 minutes. I'm actually grateful that that's all we've seen floating down. Holy smoke.